statement that I didn't know how complete it was. The Bureau of Prison Internal Affairs data that you placed in the record is part of what we possess. The Department of Justice has objected to making the rest public. I appreciate what you have done so far, putting in the record, but the other data should be in the record today, including data relating to inmate trust accounts, but apparently the Justice Department objected and wants to keep it hidden from the public. The public's business must be public, so I'm not asking for something today, but I'd like to work with you to continue our joint oversight work and make that information public.
You've got it. Senator Booker.
Thank you. I know you had a hard time hearing that.
I did, Senator.
Yeah, but I'm sure that his staff will communicate with yours. Hey, before I jump into my questioning, I was really grateful you came by my office, and I just found your own personal story so great. This is the first time you've been here in a Senate hearing. Could you just tough job with a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure, inheriting, frankly, a lot of problems. What drives you to do this work? Why are you where you are?
Thank you, Senator. It was a pleasure meeting you in person. Good to see you again here this morning. It's the people in the business. I believe in people. I believe people can change. And so I'm passionate about really working hard to ensure that those in our care and custody come back to our communities as good neighbors. And I believe in our corrections professionals. I know we've spent a lot of time this morning talking about the people who made horrible, egregious choices. That is not the majority of our employees. The majority of our employees are good, hard-working professionals that come to work every day as ashamed and embarrassed as those egregious stories as you and I are. And so that really is what drives my work. It's been 30 years in public safety, and I still come to this work very optimistic, even with all of the challenges that I've inherited. I believe that we can be a beacon of hope in corrections.
And you have, and again, I just want you to get this in the record, your experience in Oregon, you had a lot of successes. You mentioned one data point already about driving down the use of what I would call solitary confinement. Could you just give us a few more things that you were extraordinarily successful on in your time in Oregon that you might be proud of?
Really proud of our restrictive housing reduction that you're referring to, but also our work on employee wellness. So when I first became director of the Oregon Department of Corrections, we had 6 employee suicides in an 18-month period. And as a former researcher, I looked to the research, and there wasn't much out there for corrections professionals. So we brought 2 universities in to really study the issue and then implement programmatic changes. I will tell you the reduction in restrictive housing and wellness circled together. When you create better environments inside our institutions, you also have healthier, more well-being employees.
Well, this in a bipartisan way, we've done some good things on police officer mental health and wellness, and I'm really hoping we can all work together to do something. Your correctional officers, I've met many of them. I've been visiting prisons since I was in law school, and I think Senator Durbin, what he said was more profoundly important than I think people maybe have heard about all of us should visit prisons regularly. And again, the men and women that work in these institutions are under high pressure, high stress, difficult jobs, and their well-being, their mental health is something I don't think we have a history of attending to well at all. So I'm hoping we can work on something like that. Just 2 areas I want to cover, which we've already talked about. But one of the proudest bills I wrote with some support of my friend, partnership with my friend Elizabeth Warren, was the Dignity Act for women. And I was very impressed. We wrote the legislation, and a lot of states implemented for women in incarceration. Then thanks to the leadership of Dick Durbin and Chuck Grassley, we got some Dignity Act parts of that bill into our First Step Act. The shackling of pregnant women and other practices that I think are abhorrent. But I still, when I've gone to talk to women, incarcerated women, I hear stories of sexual harassment, of not trauma-informed care, because about 80 to 90% of women who are incarcerated are survivors of sexual trauma. Just practices of people walking in. I think one of our coming witnesses wrote in her testimony about how male guards walking in on women when they're in their shower, often who've been survivors. And I know this is of great concern to you. We've already touched on it. But can you just say for the record how seriously you take this, and that perhaps a year from now we can have a conversation about some of the things you've done to address these issues of sexual harassment and inappropriate conduct?
Absolutely, Senator. I take this very seriously. I'm hoping that the additional positions we just approved in our Office of Internal Affairs, our partnership with the Inspector General, and the conversation that the Deputy Attorney General and I just had with all U.S. attorneys in asking them to take these prosecutions very seriously will also help improve the environments for everyone in our care, especially our women.
And then I'm going to submit questions to the record. I want to be respectful of the time, but and Senator Durbin already covered a little bit about this, but the issues of earned time that we put into the First Step Act, this is something that I'm hoping we can get done as quickly as possible. There's no more precious value in the United States we talk about in all of our founding documents, which is liberty and freedom, and to have pathways for people to get that precious value, it's really important. We've discussed it. I might have some more specific questions for you, but I just want to say I celebrate your presence here. I'm grateful for you taking on what is, I think, one of the most difficult jobs in all of federal government. There is a crisis that you in our American prisons, and I'm grateful that you are dedicated to supporting correctional officers, staff, as well as doing right by those American citizens who are incarcerated. So thank you,
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Senator Padilla.